Alright, I've started to try to figure out how to put the bed on. That's going to be a challenge. One of the biggest reasons is that my yard slopes quite a bit. I'm doing all this in the yard. It slopes so much that I've got to level the truck off, so it's sloped left and right and front and rear. But I have figured out that I'm going to use the rubber isolators, and that's going to lift it up high enough that it's going to clear where the shocks mount. There's a little bit of room under there, that's all it needs. And I might have to trim this part right here off a little bit. I think that'll be fine too. But basically, I'm going to have the cross beams, the square tubing cross beams. This section here will be elevated to the same point. So somewhere up at where's my hand? There it is. Somewhere up in this area. Originally, I decided to do the frame swap in the yard so that I could prove that it could be done and any shade tree mechanic could do it. And it hasn't been difficult, and you definitely can do it in the yard, but my yard is sloped so much that it was very hard for me to find. Got some Gatorade for later. It's summertime, so it's extremely hot here in North Carolina. And my yard was extremely sloped, so it was hard to find any way to get a good level, to level anything out so that I could get it so that it looked right and go ahead and start welding it up. I've cut a lot of square tubing to go across. As you can see, the square tubing is going to be used to mount to the rubber isolators here. It's going to be welded there, and then it's going to be welded here to the side of the bed. So that way everything will clear. As you can see, it'll clear this middle cross member. That middle cross member is pretty tall, pretty high up, and the reason being is for the shock mounts. I could drop all that down, but it's not worth the trouble. You're only talking about maybe an inch, 2 inches of bed depth, and that's not such a big deal. I would like to, this area here and here, see, I'm going to have to be this high up. I would like to make, I missed. I'll be this high up. I would like to be able to have a little cargo section under the bed of the truck where I can open it up and store things in it, such as jack and lug nut, lug wrench and all that kind of stuff. I've been working on getting the truck level, front to back, left to right. And I wanted to get the frame section back here level. Took a while. These some 20-ton bottle jacks. Got some jack stands underneath it. These a small level, larger level, and the biggest level I have. It's as close as I'm planning to get it. Sometimes you just gotta say good enough. And so got a lot of square tubing set up, and once I level the bed with respect to the frame, already got set up some jacks, some blocks under it to hold the bed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have 4 jacks set up to hold the bed exactly level, and do a lot of measurements and be able to set it up that way. Then I'm going to take this, cut this piece. Once I get the 4 jacks in, I'm going to cut this piece. That'll give me total freedom to raise and lower the bed so that I can get it to match the truck. So it's a long, drawn out process, but it's going to be worth it. I think everything's going to be good. I'll probably have maybe a foot or so of depth in the bed, somewhere in there, which is good enough. Alright, thanks for watching. Here we are, made a lot of progress on the Studebaker. as you can see, it's no longer supported by jack stands for the bed. Been able to remove them because I welded in supports to hold the bed up. These supports are actually be the supports for the floor and everything else. What I decided to do is use the rubber isolators as mounting points for the floor. So the beams that go across are on those isolators. That'll give the bed a little chance to flex, but they're also strong enough to be able to handle the weight. So if I put a lot of weight back here, it'll be able to handle it. As you can see here and here, these are the stock locations for the Explorer body chassis to mount in the rear area to the frame. Apologize about the crappy welds. I'm using a Harbor Freight $100 flux core welder. Having pretty good success with it. They're just not really pretty. Plus I'm welding rusty metal. As you can see in the front, I've got a cross beam that's supported by the rubber isolators, and it's got a support beam coming up from the isolators to take the weight and put it on the chassis. I'm planning on actually having a bolt that comes like a U-bolt that comes around the chassis and bolts this, and then this will be welded here to be able to support that cross beam. I haven't decided what I'm going to do for the bed yet. I'm thinking wood, maybe steel plate. I'm not sure. Maybe aluminum diamond tread. But in this area here, I'm still thinking about putting a hinge plate or piece or panel that goes to this support and have that as an open area. It's about 8 inches deep, maybe 9 in others, but I still have to be careful because the exhaust is there and the gas tank is here. So haven't figured out what I'm going to do yet, but more than likely the battery will be mounted back here, maybe towards the middle, because I don't expect the drive. Oh wow, there's a cup. I don't expect the drive shaft to be coming up very high because of the fact I'm not really going to be off-roading with this vehicle. I mean, maybe take it out on the beach. That'll be about the extent of it. It'll be a lot of fun anyhow. I think it's coming along pretty good. It's a milestone, and you've got, realistically, everything you do every day on your project, or whenever you can get to it, is progress. And this, to me, this was a milestone to be able to get the bed to sit on its own without jacks. So now the next step will be get the cab mounted and get it leveled and actually mounted to the chassis. Thanks for watching. The really cool thing about these isolators is that, I don't think you can see in there, but they are threaded. So from the bottom you'll run a bolt through, and to the top here I've made a spacer here, but it's a steel plate right there. So I'll weld this and weld the cross beam to the spacer and to the rubber isolator, to the metal part of that rubber isolator. So I'll do it real quick, spot weld here, spot weld there, so it won't catch the rubber on fire. But I think these are a really good solution. I guess time will tell. I may, who knows, maybe I'll ditch them and do something like that, which that's just a temporary, it's just sitting there. So you could actually use the tubing, cut tubing pieces large enough to fit down to the chassis and bolt them in as well.